Hello everyone, Min here bringing you some more Brawlhalla content, and this is an informational video talking about the upcoming Winter Championship 2026 that's literally happening this weekend. And since it's happening this weekend, I seriously doubt there's going to be any surprise patches that will come up to disrupt the meta. So it's time for me to make this tier list based on somewhat subjective opinions on what I feel are the best characters this patch. So I've divided the tiers into 5 tiers. Top tier is nerf now or you play it to win. Second tier is overtuned and excellent. Third tier is solid, good choice. Fourth tier is undertuned and put in the work. And final tier is buff now, uphill battle. So yeah, nerf now or play to win. That tier on top is pretty obvious. It's just such a solid choice because that legend needs nerfs, but it's not getting nerfed, so you get to take advantage of a lot of things. And if it's not like their signatures or weapons, then it's just that they're such a good character. Overtune and excellent, that's kind of where things get a little bit more blurred line between broken and not broken. They're solid and really good characters, but they're more than just solid. They're pretty good because they have some crazy things going for them that could deserve nerfs, but there's definitely a lot of other priorities instead of nerfing those. And solid good choices are just well-balanced legends that you can't go wrong with playing, although they're not as easy to cheese people with compared to the other 2 tiers above. Then undertuned and put in the work, that tier is about basically legends that could definitely need some tuning up to be more relevant in the meta, but if you put in the work, they're still pretty good. You just gotta work harder. And buff now uphill battle, it's gonna be pretty interesting for the legends that get put here, because if they get put here, it just means they're really terrible picks, and you're probably gonna have to be super amazing at the game in order to make them work. So anyways, without further ado, let's get going. So as my usual format with making tier lists, we'll slot one legend into each tier to set the foundation before we get going with the tier list normally. So it's obvious, Rupture is not even tournament legal, but if he ever is allowed to be in tournament legal, like in certain community tournaments, he's definitely in the nerf now or play to win tier. He's absolutely broken. His SIGs kill really early. He's got massive strength, which doesn't really matter for Katars unless you like land a stray Sayer or like a stray recovery. But on Lance though, Lance with high strength is really crazy. And Lance neutral sig is just cheesy. It hits grounded, it hits aerial, and it covers a good area with good solid distance, and it spikes. And Katar side sig, it's literally Katar sidelight as a heavy attack that literally kills an orange. And it has the crazy OP-ness factor that Boots down sig on Vivi has with the hard to punish and active frame trapping kind of thing. So yeah, Rupture's up there. Overtuned and excellent. Let's see, who would be here? Okay, we'll skip that tier. Let's move on to solid good choice. Solid good choice, I would say. Yeah, Val would be a solid good choice. She's just really balanced. Solid stats, solid weapon comp. Sword and Gauntlets are looking pretty good this patch. They're not at the top of the meta, but they're still really good. Like, top 5 weapons easily. And her Sig kit is pretty good. So yeah, solid. Okay, undertuned and put in the work. Call me crazy, but I actually think Nyx is undertuned and you have to put in the work. She's one of the more popular legends to play as, but to actually get success with her in a tournament, hardly anyone's gotten success with her in a tournament, especially in 1v1s. So yeah, I'm going to put Nyx here. Scythe got nerfed big time, and Blasters, although it got buffed, it still has such a high skill floor and high skill ceiling that's going to be really difficult to get results with Nyx. But she's got all the tools that you need to do well with her. You just have to put in the work. And buff now, uphill battle. I'm going to put Lady Vera here. She is now legal, but unfortunately she just got nerfed on her Scythe kit. And now that Scythe got nerfed as well, that's not looking good for Lady Vera players, especially since her stats aren't that great. And on top of that, her best Sigs on Scythe got nerfed, which is not going to help with Scythe's nerfs. And Chakrams is not the best weapons, obviously, so that's going to be an issue. So yes, I feel like Lady Vera does deserve buffs, but you just have to buff the right aspects about her. And Lenovo Vantage quit butting in. Now back to overtuned and excellent. I'm probably gonna put Mako here. Katars is in such a good spot, and Katars literally only has a slight damage nerf on Dare, and that's hardly an issue. The grounded string leniency is still in effect, and Katars are hardly touched, so Katars are automatically insane, and Mako has good signatures. Some of them are kind of OP, like the active input on the N-Sig for the Katars. So yeah, Greatsword's also in a good spot because it's been untouched, and although it suffers in neutral game, when you have advantage state, it's a pretty annoying weapon to deal with for Greatsword. So yeah, I'm putting Mako here. Now, let's get started with the real tier list as we move on. So, Bodvar. Bodvar is a solid choice. He's not the best, but he's certainly better than a lot of the average characters. Sword and Hammer both accomplish the same thing. You can build damage reliably and you can kill reliably. It doesn't struggle off stage, and you'll always have kill options and you'll always have damage building options. You just have to play really simple. You can't just afford to be too flashy with those weapons, otherwise you'll be taking unnecessary risks. But Bodvar has good SIGs too, aside from like Sword Neutral SIG, which is really slow and really niche. But aside from that, and also, yeah, Hammer Down SIG is kind of slow too. But other than that, everything else about him is amazing, especially Downlight into N-Sig on both weapons. And Downlight N-Sig on Sword is on... No, Downlight D-Sig on Sword, I'm sorry. Downlight N-Sig on Hammer is excellent. Downlight D-Sig on Bodvar spikes and is unjumpable. So if they have no dodge, amazing. His stats are balanced, and you can really take him in whatever direction you want. But playstyle-wise, you're going to have to be pretty simple with some bait and parrying and some good punish tools. Cassidy is actually overtuned because she's one of those old characters that got signature reworks, so she technically has more options at her disposal than a lot of older characters. And on top of that, having Downlight N-Sig on Hammer as a true combo is such a carry for her kit. Like, it's not even funny. You'll always have that at your disposal to build damage reliably and kill rather early. And on top of that, Blaster's Sidelight is now even more unpunishable, and with that high dex, you can get away with a lot. And if you know how to work with the weapon combination, she can't really go wrong. Unless you can't play with 4 speed, then that's an issue, but otherwise she's actually overtuned. She's probably not the most broken character, but she's definitely up there as an overtuned character that could use some tweaks to her signatures to make her less overbearing. But there's certainly more characters that are more overpowered than her, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Orion. Solid choice. He's not as good as Bodvar because Spear got nerfed pretty hard. And this is the first Spear legend we're talking about, so let's get to the nitty-gritty about Spear. Spear Sidelight starts up slower, so that kind of stinks. Gonna be annoying for the grounded punishments for higher reward. And also, Sair kills way later and does less damage. And Recovery has less acceleration and drifting, and also kills later. So those combine to make Spear kill almost as late as Bow. And Bow usually kills at 200 damage. So Spear killing at like 190 damage from now on is kind of annoying. But I suppose that's how we balance a weapon that's so good at neutral. So Orion and Lance got a slight buff. So if you're a Lance player and playing Orion, you should be doing fine. But if you're playing Spear with Orion, you're going to have to rely on those signatures to get those early kills. Otherwise, you're going to have to play better than your opponent. And although Orion's stats are balanced, he doesn't excel at anything other than above average speed and dex. So he's just solid, but he's kind of somewhat basic like Bodvar. But if you can cheese people with like Spear neutral sig with Orion, that would be amazing. Like you can do Starlight End Sig or D-Light End Sig if they have no dodge, and you can get some cheesy wins off of that. So I would put him in Overtunes, but he would be slightly overtuned, but Spear got nerfed, so that makes him fair somewhat. So yeah, he'll be there. Lord Vrax. Lord Vrax is surprisingly solid now. He's not too high in the solid tier, but he's solid enough because his dex makes up for his low strength and defense by allowing you to get downlight and light on Lance, true, and that's 30 damage at least. So you can't go wrong with high damage combos like that. And his signatures got buffed in the past, so that allows his kill potential to get even better. And I know we're probably going to start testing the dex changes in experimental soon, but you can expect Cassidy and Vrax to rise up in the tier list if Dexterity's changes, where it deals with weapon durability, is going to be graduated from experimental. But that's too far into the future, so I'll put him here for now. And also, Lance downsig on Vrax is really good at getting early kills when you least expect it. Okay, Nash. Nash used to be overtuned, but with Spear getting hits and his Spear kit not being easily spammable for easy kills, aside from like a stray Spear side sig that people don't expect, I'd say he's solid, right next to Bodvar. Not too crazy things to mention about Nash other than having meaty signatures and meaty stats. He's just a really big swinging meaty guy. His weapon combination is good. Spear allows for excellent damage build and control, and Hammer's just good for finishing stocks. His signatures hit hard, but they're kind of telegraphed in some ways. So you're just working with good fundamentals to succeed with Nash. And you can cheese with Sigs when your opponent is sleeping. Queen Nai. Queen Nai's solid. She's better than Bodvar in the case that she has Katars, and she has pretty good stats for getting early kills with her signatures in conjunction with that. But having low speed is a liability, and Spear itself got nerfed, which isn't too terrible because she's got amazing sigs for her Spear to kill early with. And Katars can carry in certain matchups. And of course, with the extended damage and reads, you can go far with Katars alone. But with Spear nerfed, Queen Nai cannot be more than solid. Hattori. I mean, as a Hattori player, I hate to say it, but Hattori is undertuned. And I say this because she already struggles to kill. Like, Hattori's stats, even though it's base 4, she struggles killing so much because her SIGs don't hit hard enough. And now that Spear kills even later, you're really going to struggle killing as Hattori if you can't land those SIGs. And that's really putting her behind a lot of characters. I mean, Sword is still there. You got Sword, but you don't always have Sword when you need it to, when you need the kill. And there's times when you're stuck on Spear and you have to make do. And that's where your low defense and strength really hurts you when you have to edge out the win. So I'm putting Hattori here. Sir Roland. Yeah, Sir Roland's solid. He's better than Nash in this patch, but I'd say he's neck and neck with Bodvar. Although I'd say Bodvar is slightly better because he has more usable SIGs than Roland. I mean, you have lance and you have sword. They're both reliable and fast weapons, and they reliably deal damage. It's just Sir Roland's signatures can have some really goofy outliers that are really bad. Like sword side signature on Roland is so slow, and it's probably best only used as like slide charging to cover like a bad recovery from the opponent on the wall. Or you can like use it as like a hard punish to KO someone sideways when they whiff something that's easily punishable. But other than that, if you misinput a sword side sig and your opponent knows, you're pretty much cooked when you're Roland. And also, Lance neutral sig on Roland is so telegraphed and slow that you really can only use it when your opponent's low on options when they're trying to get back to the ground or when they just panic jump into it. It's good that they reworked his Lance side sig to be faster, so there's that. But Roland has some pretty interesting sigs that are kind of bad. And the only reason I wouldn't put him in Undertuned is because his weapons on themselves are really reliable. So yeah. Okay, Bodvar. Down sig on hammer is kind of slow. Neutral sig on sword is kind of slow. Roland, Lance neutral sig is too slow. Sword side sig is too slow. So yeah, that kind of evens out. His stats are alright. That's why he's not back over here with Vrax. So yeah. Scarlet. Scarlet. I put her at top of solid for now. Theoretically, her weapons are really good this patch. Lance and Hammer don't really have any nerfs to hold them back. They're in both weapons are in a good spot. She has solid stats, good signatures. The only issue with Scarlet is that if you cannot know how to deal with Katars when you're Scarlet, then you're just gonna get destroyed as Scarlet if you're fighting Katars. Because you don't have easy anti-airs against their floaty dares that Katars likes to do. And also, if you don't have the confidence when you're playing Lance against Katars, you can't just beat out sidelight to sidelight, because most of the time it'll clash, and then theirs is fast, and they can get you. So that could be rough. But otherwise, if you're not up against like fast weapons like Katars or like maybe even boots, and in some cases gauntlets. But if gauntlets, then you can just use hammer. So yeah, I'd say really struggle against Katars and boots if you're Scarlet. So other than the matchup, she's solid. Thatch. Yarg. Okay, Thatch. Yeah, I'd say Thatch is solid, but like lower end of solid. Yeah, I'll put Thatch right next to Vrax. I don't know, the low defense, you can feel way more on Thatch compared to Vrax. But like the high strength is really good though. Getting those stray Sares on blasters with Thatch and getting early kills with it is pretty feels real good. You can the downsig on blasters is absolute cheese if you can edge guard with it. And I mean, you can also get D-Light into N-Sig on Blasters True, so that's an easy damage build. And his sword Sigs are equally cheesy. Yeah, you just gotta deal with this low defense, but he's pretty solid. And sword and blasters, that's actually pretty solid to fight Katars with. So yeah, I'm actually thinking that Thatch is better than Vrax this patch. And let's see what else. Yeah, Thatch could be better than Val if you put the practice and work into blasters. But as is, Gauntlets just default to being an easier weapon, so I'll put Thatch here. Ada's just a worse Vrax at this point. No, not Vrax. Worse Thatch at this point, because similar issue with defense, but you got the low defense just like Thatch, yeah. But Spear got nerfed. That's an issue. I mean, you shouldn't have too much of an issue since Ada has really good signatures for Spear, but you can't rely on signatures exclusively when you're playing at a top level, especially in a tournament. If your opponent can play around the signatures, then Ada's gonna crumple against people that can fight against Spear and Blasters. You have to space really well as Ada, and you have to know when to approach and when to just keep biding your time. But with low defense, it's hard to bide your time. So yeah, I'm putting Ada at the bottom of solid. She's the only reason she's not undertuned is because I think her signatures are enough to keep her at bay for now instead of sinking. And also, sidelight Ensig, downlight Ensig on Spear is kind of like the similar case to Orion, where it's really good for cheesing. And side sig on Spear can reach farther than you would expect. And Blaster's neutral sig on Ada can give you easy confirms when your opponent is reckless near the edge. Okay, Sentinel. Sentinel is surprisingly my sleeper pick this patch. He's legal, and I dare say he's absolutely annoying and broken. You've got Katars and you've got Hammer, so you've got amazing damage buildup and string potential, reads, all of that, and you've got easy kills with Hammer. Amazing offstage, amazing stats. This guy has it all. His signatures are cheesy too. I dare say, Sentinel might need some force nerfs on his some of his signatures. And I think he does need the biggest nerf for his Katar Ensig, because Sentinel's Ensig on Katars, even though I like to use that move myself, I think that we should spare the Q of his madness and nerf that move. But other than that, Sentinel, amazing choice. I think he's probably one of the best suited legends to win a tournament if people put time into him. Lucian. Lucian is overtuned, surprisingly. I mean, take everything about Hattori, but having both of her weapons do really well in this patch. Katars is way more amazing than both Sword and Spear. And on top of that, Lucian has probably one of the best Katar kits. And you'd be surprised how early Katar sidesig kills with Lucian. And downsig on Lucian's Katars is absolute cheese fest. The blasters on Lucian are reliable, but they don't kill very early. But he's got good stats, so you can't really go wrong with Lucian. He's overtuned. Probably just like Katar downsig and sidesig. But it could just be a power shift that needs to be done for Lucian, probably. Maybe increase the force on his blaster's side sig and down sig. Yeah, swap the Katars and the blaster's force, I suppose, right? Okay, Teros. Teros is still overtuned despite the nerfs, simply because we decided to buff Axe. TWK buffed Axe, guys. Of course Teros is going to be good, and Hammer's still good right now. And Teros still kills early despite the nerfs. He doesn't even need the signatures half the time, but it's just icing on the cake. But at the same time, Teros really struggles against Sword and Katars, those fast weapons and boots too. So if you can fight head on with a Teros with fast weapons, then he can really struggle. So that's why I can't put him higher than the bottom of overtuned. Bryn's solid, but I'll put her here. Yeah, I'll put her right next to Orion. Similar stats to Orion somewhat. But Axe got buffed, so yeah, she's better than Orion. I'd say Bryn is really well equipped to deal with a lot of matchups. But issue with her is you have to get used to her signatures either being sluggish or just really niche and situational. You can get away with spamming her axe and Ensig. That signature is amazing. But I'd dare say Spear Ensig on Bryn is too narrow to be easily spammable, and it's actually jumpable off of D-Light on Spear, so that's kind of annoying. But yeah, she's solid. She's just not too broken aside from Axe Ensig. Balanced stats. Play her how you want her. Asuri. Asuri is amazing this patch. I'll put Asuri at the top of Overtuned. She's not nearly as obnoxious as Sentinel, since her stats are more balanced than Sentinel, which is just so amazing. But you've got Katars, which is crazy this patch, and you've got Sword, which can confirm the kills that Katars can lack sometimes. So that's the perfect weapon comp. The signatures are pretty good too. Yeah, Asuri is well suited for this meta. Not much else to say. She's overtuned, but I don't see any way of nerfing her in any way that is healthy for the game. Because, believe it or not, the dunk on Hattori's Katar Ensig, it's pretty fair given how somewhat reactable it is, right? And Katar Sidesig definitely needs the most buffs for Asuri because it's slow. Katar D-Sig kills late enough, so it's fair. Yeah, I think she's alright. She's overtuned because Katars itself is overtuned. So yeah. The Sigs are just icing. Veraza. Yeah, I'd say Veraza's just a solid choice right now. Right here. Right behind Scarlet. He's got solid stats for biding your time and cheesing your opponent when you need to with Axe Neutral Sig and Blaster's Down Sig. Those kill early somewhat still. And yeah, he's just same issues as Scarlet. He's really good and he's dependable, but he just has awkward matchups against fast weapons like Katars and Boots. But he's solid, so don't sleep on him. Ember. Ember. I'm going to put Ember at top of Solid or bottom of Overtuned. I'm going to put her bottom of Overtuned. Finally, we've entered an Ember meta, guys. Somewhat of an Ember meta. She can never be fully meta because of low defense. But this is probably Ember's best time to shine right now because Katars is amazing. She got buffs for her Katars. Katar's side sig is now obnoxiously good, just like Asuri's down sig on Katars. That's amazing. You can also mix up with Katar down sig with Ember just for the evasion. Neutral sig on Ember's Katars is the weaker signature, but it got buffed to have more force, so that's pretty good. And Bow is just Bow. It's always reliable. It controls area well. And Bow Ensig on Ember is bread and butter. And Side Sig on Bow is pretty reliable. Yeah, it's just the low defense. Otherwise, it could be an Ember meta right now. But we just haven't seen someone put in the work. Now, Azoth. I'd say Azoth is actually better than Teros this patch. The reason being, Bow is just a way better weapon at mix-ups. You can't always just go for downlight on Bow because you can also fish for Endlight or Nairs too when you're trying to put pressure. And Azoth's Axe is very underrated. Axe Ensig on Azoth, it doesn't have the grappling features as Bryn's Ensig, but they're functionally identical in function. And Axe Side Sig, there's a dead zone, but it hits hard. Axe D-Sig is just a free Endlight that kills upwards, so you can really get ceiling kills with Azoth's Axe really well. Speaking of ceiling kills, Azoth's Bow Ensig is unjumpable off of Bow D-Light. and covers a good dead zone that Bow has. And side sig on Bow is really good for cheesing as well. And they sped up the down sig on his bow, so yeah, he's also sleeper. I think the top 3 weapons right now, I gotta say, are probably Katars, bow, and cannon. That's probably like the top 3 right now. Because cannon got buffed with the Nair, which kills obnoxiously early, and it has really good read options to easily get someone from white to orange health, or even outright kill them in some cases. So yeah. Okay, Koji. I put Koji bottom of overtuned. It's just that Koji's too fair. Aside from like bow downsig on Koji, or like sword side sig on Koji, he's a pretty fair legend overall. He's got amazing matchups. That's the best thing about Koji. He doesn't have any losing matchups. It's just that he's just average in every other way. But you've got amazing frame data with his weapons. You're probably not going to be outsped by anyone besides maybe Katars. And that's probably about it. Maybe Katars boots. That's literally it. But they may have the speed advantage, but you have the range advantage, and you have the coverage advantage. Bow is amazing at covering distances and interrupting people. So, yeah, overtuned, but not too overtuned. He's in the sweet spot. Olgrim. Olgrim's a solid choice. I'll put him above Scarlet because Olgrim has more stat flexibility than Scarlet, but Scarlet has more signature flexibility. So Olgrim, you can't go wrong with Olgrim. He's got balanced stats no matter which way you put it. And having Axe with Lance is actually pretty good because you can get more matchup coverage. So yeah, can't really say much about him. The only reason I don't put him as overtuned is because his signatures got heavily nerfed throughout the years. But he's solid. And don't forget, Sidelight Ensig on Lance for Olgrim is unjumpable. So that's a good confirm. And D-Sig on Axe is still solid. Diana's definitely overtuned. But it's just that Ember has Katars, which puts her above Diana in terms of weapons. But Diana doesn't have low defense. So it's a toss-up. If basically whoever masters their weapons better is going to be the victor here. But Diana has almost as much cheese as Ember in terms of the bow kit. Maybe more so because Bow Ensig on Diana, you can string it off of Sidelight D-Light Ensig when they have no dodge, or just D-Light Ensig, and you can cheese early kills. And Bow Downsig gets early kills too when you're near the edge. But Diana's blasters have a real big learning curve to them because they're not really conventional signatures. So yeah, I'll put Diana here. Jala. Jala's a solid choice. She's probably better off than Thatch and Ada this patch. I'll put her in between Rollins and Bodvar. The low defense really hurts, but aside from that, Jala is a wrecking machine. Axe Downsig on Jala does 35 damage against like 5 defense about, right? Yeah. Kills early. Axe Ensig is cheese too. Sword Ensig is reliable, but it's not crazy. Sword Downsig is obnoxiously good and fast. Can't go wrong with Jala. I'd say maybe she's better than Bodvar, but only barely because she has more cheese. Core. Core's a solid choice. I'm going to put Core right here. Only issue is that he does struggle with matchup issues because Katars can heavily roll Core. But Core, he's an offstage demon, so you can't forget that. And also, the Gauntlet Sigs on Core are amazing. Especially D-Sig on Gauntlets for Core. Get some unexpected kills. Wu Shang has seen better days. All of you people playing Spear on Wu Shang are probably sad about this patch. And rightfully so. I'm going to put Wu Shang. This is a 1v1 tier list, by the way. I only play 1v1s. I'm pretty sure Wu Shang would still be top tier in 2v2s for sure. Yeah, I'm putting... This is the lowest Wu Shang's ever going to be, but I definitely play Spear more than Gauntlet, so that's my bias. I'm putting Wu Shang above Queen Nai just because his stats are better. But he's only in solid. He's not overtuned anymore just because Spear's been nerfed so hard. I dare say Wu Shang deserves a Spear down sig buff. Like, you deserve more reward for hitting that clunky signature. But other than that, Wu Shang is in a good spot now. Ragnir. Ragnir is overtuned. He's got Katars and he's got Axe, which are both good weapons. Wait, that's actually crazy because I think Axe is like a top 5 weapon, and Katars is the best weapon right now. Yeah, and I think Axe is better than Blasters, at least in terms of initial payoff. More reliable than Greatsword. Call me crazy, but I think Ragnir is better than Asuri because your stats are more flexible. And you can still cheese with the dunk of the flaming Ensig of the Katars for Ragnir. And you can also spike with downsig on Katars too. And the Axe Kit is amazing too. Yeah, I think Ragnir is only minutely fair because of his Axe downsig being pretty bad. So yeah, Ragnir's only right here. He's not in the nerf now, definitely not. He's definitely best of overtuned, though. Cross. I mean, they rebuffed his Gauntlet signatures and stuff to kill earlier, right? So that's cool. I dare say Cross is better than Wu Shang this patch, but he's still got the bad matchups, but crazy stats for Cross. So yeah, I'll put Cross right here. Mirage. Poor Mirage. She's really suffered the short end of the stick in balance patches this time around. Probably because Markimu pulled her out in BCX. I'd say she's actually undertuned now that she's got nerfed to her fundamental playstyle for her weapons. I say the main thing that's undertuned about Mirage is we gotta buff that Scythe side sig. The dead zone, fine, she can have a dead zone for her Scythe side sig. But it needs to hit hard like Azoth Scythe, Axe side sig to make it worth it, right? Spear downsig and Spear downsig, pretty telegraphed. You can play around it real well. Spear side sig hits hard, but you have to be in the right spot. Spear's neutral sig hits hard, and it's alright. Scythe end sig hits hard, but the area that it covers is pretty distinct. So yeah, Mirage is good, but she's so niche in so many aspects now, this patch, that I have to put her in undertuned now. It's just that we can't really buff Mirage in most ways because that would make her too good. But Scythe side sig is probably the first place to start to buff. Mordex. Mordex is not looking too good this patch either. But he's so heavily traveled You can't really go wrong with playing Mordex. He's just that fundamental to the game now. I'm going to put him in solid choice. Right next, right in between Olgrim and Scarlet. He's solid, but he's not amazing anymore. That's the issue. Scythe taking heavy hits? Not good for Scythe's image. And most people who play Mordex are in it for the Scythe. Let's be real. And not only that, but before this patch, the patch before, he got nerfs on his SIGs too. So yeah, it's not. Mordex scene's better days. Yumiko. Flower is right. Yumiko is undertuned, and she needs buffs. All you haters of Yumiko out there, myself included, can't hate on Yumiko too much. She dies too fast, and her SIGs are gimmicky, yes. But they're gimmicky, but they're not good gimmicky. They're cheesy gimmicky. And bow downstig on Yumiko is pretty much useless against anyone that's higher than 2200 elo, let's be real, right? So yeah, we need to buff bow downstig on Yumiko. And the stun on Yumiko's hammer is not necessary. That was a bad change, guys. Because we don't even have Enigma in the tournament pool. Why are we worried about those crazy hammer gimps if we're not playing Enigma? Or Twilight Grove, right? Yeah. Maybe give back some more stun to Hammer Ensig and buff bow downsig to be faster. And that's a good place to start to make Yumiko better. I mean, I'm calling for major buffs for these characters in the Undertuned category, but Lady Vera actually needs the most buffs because, sure, the characters in the Undertuned do need buffs, but at least they have somewhat decent stats and stuff to work with. But Lady Vera, she has Scythe, which got nerfed, and she has low speed, so that's automatically buffed now. Now, enough rambling, let's continue. Artemis. Yeah, Artemis is a solid choice. But, and this is a big but, she's top of solid choice. Better than Mordex. Why better than Mordex? Because you can Sig spam with Artemis like no tomorrow, and Mordex cannot. Easy way to put it. You got Landside Sig on Artemis. Crazy damage, crazy force, hard to punish. And you can almost do the same thing with her Scythe too. And the signatures are easy enough to spam in most situations that you can't really get punished for it. So yeah, top of solid for Artemis. And on top of that, she just so happens to have signature confirms that are unjumpable with Sidelight and Sig on both of her weapons. So yes, she is probably the best Lance and Scythe legend. Best Lance and best Scythe legend this patch. So yeah, can't go wrong with Artemis. I might dare say she would be overtuned, but no, I dare say she is overtuned. She's that good to carry Scythe from mediocrity to craziness, just from the SIGs alone. So yes, that's crazy bias from all the Artemis players I've fought. And I do play Artemis myself, so I can attest to that. Even higher level players can still struggle with the SIG spam. So yes, you do belong here. You do belong here, Artemis. Bottom of overtuned, yes, but you are still overtuned. Definitely the best of the weapons that she holds. So, Caspian. Dude, Caspian's got Katars with high strength and cheesy signatures. Of course he's overtuned. And I only say, I dare only say that Caspian is only worse than Lucian because Lucian offers more flexibility and playstyle to have blasters with the Katars, But Caspian's got Katars and Gauntlets, which are very similar in their play style, right? Yeah, play style and how they achieve their goals. It's too similar, which means you'll also struggle against similar matchups. So that's the only reason why he can't be better than Lucian. But by virtue of having Katars, he's amazing. And also, Katar's side sig is so spammable too. Sidra. Sidra's cheesy, yes. But is she good? And the answer is yes, she's good, especially with Cannon being good. And of course her stats are so good too. We can't get around that. I say Sidra's right here. That dang anchor sword down sig on Sidra cheeses so much too. And also Cannon and Sig too. You've got cheesy signatures and you've got reliable weapons, so what do you expect? Overtuned for Sidra. Zol. Zol is a solid choice. He's not overtuned because his signatures are somewhat telegraphed, but I'll put him at the top of solid. Cannon is in a good spot. Axe is in a good spot, so of course Zol's in a good spot. You just gotta work with the telegraph signatures. Kaya. I mean, Kaya is kind of like Mordex, where she's always a fundamentally good character, but the spear nerfs hit her hard. So, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna put Kaya in solid here. She's better than Mordex, just by virtue of bow and spear having no bad matchups. But a similar legend that has no bad matchups, Koji, at least his weapons didn't get nerfed, so he's higher. So Kaya's right here. Bow and Sig is still really trippy to deal with, though. But Bow side Sig and Bow D Sig on Kaya got nerfed in startup frames, so that really stinks for Kaya players. And same with Spear down Sig. Same with Spear neutral Sig. She's got heavy nerfs, so yeah, I'm actually putting her lower now. Because Mordex, although his signatures aren't spammy, they're still more dependable. That's actually mad that I'm actually putting Kaya lower than Bo. Than Kaya is worse than Wu Zhang this patch. Insane. Okay, Isaiah. Isaiah's solid, but his game plan is so formulaic and so predictable. Aside from cannon reads, that I'm just gonna put Isaiah. No, Isaiah deserves better than that. Yeah, I'll put him here. Cannon's good, blasters are good, but Isaiah's signature kit is pretty predictable once you know what options they cover. Don't get me wrong, they're good signatures. It's just that you know when they're going to throw it out. So it's really just Cannon side sig that's going to catch you off guard. But other than that, Isaiah's aren't really difficult to bring down. And that's saying something. A die-hard Isaiah player like Adam Cool, I can still manage to cheese some wins against him if I focus. So that's pretty insane. Okay, Jiro. This is not a good time to be a Jiro player. I'm sorry, Shadow OQ. I know that's why you're on the Volkov. Undertuned. And I dare say, worst of the bunch in the undertuned. I mean, you have Nair with Scythe, but in other aspects of Scythe, you're not gonna be cooking really well. And Sword is not gonna carry the slack when your sword signatures are really sluggish. You hit hard, yes, but they're too sluggish. And coupled with low defense, that's not a recipe for a fun time if you aren't willing to put in the work and you aren't willing to be a masochist and deal with early losses and hard to recover deficits. I'd say the best way to buff Jiro would definitely well, for one, his Scythe side sig is slow and it doesn't even kill that early. So yeah, that needs a buff. Force buff to side sig on Scythe for Jiro. N sig on Scythe is alright. D sig on Scythe is alright. Down sig on Jiro Sword is really cheesy, but it's pretty slow, so I can imagine the Shadow Clone being faster, but I can't imagine how long rage-inducing that would be for people to lose with that signature being buffed, though. And Sword neutral sig. Maybe more force, and that's it. Lin Fei. Call me crazy. Call me really crazy. Lin Fei has similar stats to Jiro when you play Strength Stance. But, a huge but, she has Cannon and Katars, which are the top 3 weapons. So yes, it's finally a Lin Fei meta. It's finally an Ember meta. But due to the weak meddling stats, she cannot be that high. But her signatures got buffed, so that's a relief. Cannon N-Sig is cheesy. Cannon Down-Sig is cheesy. And Katars, when you use them in the right situation and opportunity, they can thrive. And if you can read with Katars and Cannon, you're going to thrive too. So yes, Guichibu should be doing well in tournaments this patch, so I'd be surprised if Guichibu doesn't top 8 this Winters. He might top 4 too. I hope he top 4s to prove my point. Now, Zariel. Zariel is sleeper. He's definitely overtuned. I'm putting Zariel higher than Koji. Yeah, I think Gauntlets is probably the top 4 weapon and Sword's like top 5, right? Maybe. Bow is amazing right now. And signatures on Zariel, most of the signatures spike, so that's really annoying. The stats are really good for exchanges. And Gauntlets. Oh boy, Gauntlet side sig and Gauntlet down sig really catch you when you least expect it. It's Caspian all over again, guys. So yes, I'm actually putting Zariel higher here. I mean, Balloon Boy's gotten success with Devil Jin. Yeah, neck and neck with Azoth. Rayman. Yeah! Rayman. Rayman's solid. He's not overtuned because only some of his signatures are overtuned. Namely, Axe Side Sig, Axe Down Sig, and Gauntlet Down Sig, but the rest are just balanced. So I'd say he's top of solid. Not much else to say about him. But Axe Down Sig can be really obnoxious as an edge guard or a mix-up. I was really hyping about Dusk being really good last patch, but with the Spear and Orb nerfs, yes, we're moving into the Orb characters now, so it's time to talk about Orb. Orb, Sayer, and Dare are now more punishable. Not by much, mind you, but still noticeable. Somewhat noticeable. So yes, but Dusk has Spear too. So yeah, he's just solid now. Everything that was broken about him is alleviated by the weapon kit's nerfs. So yeah, he's just literally right up there with Mordex and Scarlet now. Okay, Fate. Unlike Dusk, Fate's Scythe nerfs were way more severe than the Spear nerfs. So yes, it kind of stinks to be a Fate player, but you still have Orb and Ensig to carry you. It's just that you're just gonna really struggle in fundamental interactions with movement and getting the first hit and capitalizing off the first hit with the Scythe nerfs. So yeah, I'll put Fate debatably above Wushang. Thor. Thor and Core. Yeah, it sounds right. I mean, Thor is reliable, just like Bodvar, but his signatures are rather clunky compared to Bodvar, so that's why he's here. But he just has way better stats than Bodvar. And Orb has more flexibility in how you get to play with it compared to Sword and yeah. Yeah, he belongs over here. Okay, Petra. Petra's probably the best Gauntlet legend this patch. And debatably might be the best Orb, too. I mean, sure, her Orb's not as spammy as Fate's Orb, but it gets the job done regardless. And having more dependable SIGs on Gauntlets, and the fact that Gauntlets is fundamentally a really good weapon, I'm putting Petra above Caspian right here. Yeah, the three best Gauntlets this patch have to be Petra, Caspian, and Zariel. Onyx might be up here. Okay, Vector. Vector's a solid choice. I'll put him above Ulgrim because Bo's got the extra control over Axe and speed too. The signatures are kind of like Zul, where they're either telegraphed or they're hard to use. But if you can use them with conjunction with these weapons, you can really control a lot of the area with this. So yeah, Vector's a solid choice, but it's not his time to shine yet. He's good, but he's not crazy. I don't think Vector deserves any buffs aside from maybe the Lance side sig being faster, and that's literally it. Volkov. I've been fighting Shadow OQ on Volkov quite a bit this patch. And to be fair, he's solid. Honestly, I think if you're playing Scythe, you should either go Artemis, Mordax, or Volkov this patch. Because, yes, you can easily cheese with Volkov Sigs, yes. And if you can fundamentally play Axe well, you can't go wrong with Volkov either. Unlike Lady Vera, who has similar stats to Volkov, Volkov's signatures have the spacing necessary to make it work. Because Lady Vera's signatures on Scythe are way more close range than Volkov's. Onyx. Onyx is actually not that overtuned. The only reason I lose to Onyx is just because of their high defense off-putting all of my exchanges. Their signatures are actually pretty predictable. Aside from like cannon neutral sig. Yeah, I'm putting Onyx right here, right in front of Zola though, because you can play more flexible there. Jae-yun. Jae-yun. Top of solid. He's good for Greatsword, he's good for Sword. It's just that his weapons aren't meta, that's the only thing. Mako is actually better than Jae-yun this patch for once, which is pretty insane now that Katars got to really develop in the current meta. Magyar. Magyar is undertuned, guys. Top of undertuned. The defense carries, but if you're still not winning, neutral, they're gonna catch up to you eventually with the defense. Some of Magyar's signatures are kind of slow. That's kind of the issue here. Side sig on Greatsword is slow. Hammer neutral sig is kind of slow. Hammer down sig is just a worse Rayman down sig. Yeah. Quite a bit of buffs needed, but not too much into detail on what I think should get buffed. Maybe just speed up Greatsword side sig and more force on some of the hammer sigs, and then we'll be good. Reno's a solid choice. He can't be much higher just because... Yeah, he just can't be much higher because his signatures just don't hit hard enough for some reason. But his blasters are definitely good. Better than Isaiah's. I'm just going to put him better than Isaiah. His orb's good. Yeah, you play Reno for the orb, though. His orb in some cases is better than Petra's. You know what? We're putting Reno right here. He's still good. Side sig on orb's fast. Down sig on orb's fast. Neutral sig on orb is unjumpable off of side light, and it spikes. The blaster sigs are fast enough, and they can get the job done. They just don't hit too hard. Moonin. Moonin is undertuned, guys. Don't get me wrong, her signatures are good, but she's just lacking in kill potential. And she's actually really lacking because the signatures don't hit very hard at all. Like, it's kind of like Hattori's issue, but she's better than Hattori because her weapon combination is pretty solid. You get to do the same thing. Scythe and Bow are pretty similar in their coverage and their utility, but in this case it can be a good thing because you can keep controlling the area regardless of what weapon you have. But if you can't kill, you can control all you want, but if your opponent gets a good read on you, all that control is not going to matter if you can't seal the deal. So just more force overall, and then Moonin's good. Arcadia. I'd say Arcadia. She's kind of neck and neck with Ada. Similar issues as Ada, low defense, but now you have low speed in the mix too. That's the dilemma. So yes, similar issues as Ada, but now you've got to worry between the balancing act of speed or defense. Spear neutral sig is probably the highlight of Arcadia, in my opinion, though. So there's that. Ezio. Ezio is probably the best solid choice here. You know what? Is Ezio overtuned? No, because Orb down sig is still bad. Yeah, he's in top of solid. Makes sense. Sword D sig is still amazing. Sword N sig is just a better Hattori N sig on sword. Sword side sig's fast. Yeah, Ezio solid. Tezca. I rated Tezca really highly the last time I made a tier list. How's he faring now? And no surprise, he's still crazy. He's probably the best boot still. Yeah, I'll put him right here. He's not as amazing as he was because there's a lot of counterplay against Tezca, especially if you have Katars now, because you can just beat him out. The best way to beat a Tezca is just to stuff him out of his moves. Which is easier said than done if he has boots, but it's easy to stuff out a Gauntlets if you have the initiative and aren't willing to hesitate. But he can get real cheesy with his N-Sigs, and that's what you always gotta look out for when you're fighting a Tezca. I mean, Tezca's... What would we nerf about Tezca? Probably the fact that some of his SIGs do 30 damage for no reason. And he doesn't really need that when he already has 8 strength. That's probably my only thing. Thea. Definitely undertuned. Does she deserve a buff now? She already got buffs, so yeah, we'll put her in the undertune. She does not deserve a buff right now. It's honestly just the stats. Her only issue is her stats. Her weapons are good. Her SIGs are good. Definitely not a Lady Vera situation. Lady Vera has it all. Bad stats, bad weapon. But Thea, it's just the stats. And there's no way to circumvent the stats. So yeah, she's just kind of stuck in this limbo unless her SIGs get crazy amazing. But I don't think that's healthy for the game, so she might just stay as a legend that you gotta put in the work for to make her work. But she's fun if you can. Red Raptor. Another amazing boots legend. But his stats are more flimsy than Tezca. But don't get me wrong, boots neutral sig on Red Raptor can carry you against unworthy opponents. And also the motorcycle side sig on Orb too. So yeah, he's the cheesy guy. We'll put him over here in between Azoth and Taros. Loki. Loki is a tough legend to measure right now. Scythe is not looking good, but Katars are looking good. Darwin plays Loki for the Scythe, though, not the Katars. So yes, that does make sense why he is disheartened by the nerfs. But Loki is still undeniably good, especially if you play Katars. And his Scythe. His Scythe is good too. Can't go wrong with his Scythe. Loki is probably the only Scythe legend that's actually meta right now. Artemis is in this tier because of the cheese, but Loki has the cheese and Loki's got the good stuff. And you got Nair Sarah True on Scythe, so you basically made Jiro obsolete. Congrats, Loki. Yeah, I'll put Loki right here, right behind Asuri and ahead of Mako. I mean, Loki is only overtuned because his signatures are really quick. They don't kill early, but they're just really quick. And that's probably what balances it out. So yeah, I think Loki's only overtuned because of Katars at this point. Seven. Seven. Seven is probably the only overtuned spear legend on this tier list, by virtue of Cannon carrying the slack. And not only that, but those stats are really forgiving on those weapons. So yes, you can make 7 work. But the moment those dex changes graduate, 7's probably going to plummet though, because 2 dex is not fun when you're losing your weapon left and right. But as of right now, current dex work right now, 7 is still overtuned, even with the spear nerfs. Vivi or Vivi. Yeah, she's still overtuned. Amazing boots kit, amazing blasters kit. Can't go wrong with Vivi, guys. Yeah. Put her right up here next to Tezca. Slightly better, though, because the signatures are faster, for the most part. But boots down sig on Vivi still grinds my gears. And Mugi. Mugi is only overtuned by sheer value of him winning exchanges against any other legend. No legend can go hit for hit with Mugi and win in most cases. And the signatures are really good too. You gotta put up with the stats. I mean, Greatsword side sig is not as obnoxious as it used to be, but it's still really good. And also, Axe neutral sig is still the bane of my existence too. It's fast and it kills so fast. King Zuva has been hiding in the shadows because not many people are willing to play it. But don't get me wrong, he's a solid choice. It's just he's uncharted territory, but I think Boots and Hammer is a good combination because, kind of like Bolvar and Thor, you have dependable options to kill and build damage with, and the signatures are only getting better with more and more buffs. So I'll put them right here. And you cannot deny the fact that having Boots as a weapon is just so good for stuffing people out when you need to. Priya. Priya's probably the most solid choice if you're probably playing Chakrams at this point. I mean, her sword downsig got buffed to be faster, so it's comparable to Nyx's blaster nsig now. The Chakram sigs are pretty good and fast. You just gotta know Chakrams and then you can do well with her, so she's pretty solid, yeah. Ransom, same kind of deal as Priya, but the signatures are kind of more wonky. But I think he's solid. So yes, sorry I've been moving faster than usual on my explanations for the characters and legends. But yes, let me know what you think about this tier list. Sentinel is up there, guys. Sentinel is up there. Ragnir might be up there too. Asuri might be up there. It's a Katar meta right now, guys. So yes, let me know in the comments what you think, if you agree or disagree. Mind you, this is pretty subjective because I'm not a top tier competitive player. I've never even top 32 before. I've only like top 69s. So yeah, hope you guys have a good one, and good luck if you're playing in the Winter Champs this weekend. Peace.